Well, hey y'all, happy Monday. Well, welcome back. So, if you're here in Arizona, you know that it rained all last week. And so, I didn't get a whole lot done in terms of getting more stuff planted, like in the bed. My straw bales still need to cool off. They're about 120 right now. And so we need to get them down in the 90s before we can plant. So today, before the rain that comes in on Wednesday, I need to get the one new bed that we made filled up with some more compost so I can plant some things that I have for that in there. But mostly today in this video, I'm going to show you how I set up my tomato plants. Those are all the transplants that I set up last week, and Lord willing, they're all doing pretty good after all that rain that they got last week. So we're going to click over and check that out. This is the future home of most of my tomato plants, and these are my transplants. This is about 10. I still have a couple things I want to get, but I wanted to share with you today a little bit about my method for setting up these transplants. These are all 10-gallon fabric pots. It's funny, they look shorter and smaller than the 5-gallon buckets, but they're actually bigger. And our hope is, after doing tomatoes in buckets for a couple years, even though these can lose moisture just as quick as buckets, the air pruning, we're hoping that gives a new kind of resilience to our tomatoes maybe. So the first thing here is these are all filled with about halfway full of basically unscreened compost from that pile. Now that pile's got some really thick pieces in it, so in here you know, there's still some woody pieces, something that big, but nothing really big. I don't mind big pieces from the pile going into like a bed, but I don't want anything in a bag to compete with the bigger pieces. Then on the top of the soil, I just went through and put maybe, say, a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons of kelp meal. And now I'm going to start, so now I'm going to wet the bags down first, because that just always seems to be the smartest thing for me. And then I'm going to go to work on the tomatoes, and I'm going to put, once I get the tomatoes ready to go into their spot, their hole, they're going to get some azomite in that hole, some Epsom salt, and then in this watering container, I've got the Soil Diva mixed up, the concentrate mixed up in the water. So when I pull the plant out of the container, it's going to get its roots doused with the Soil Diva, because it's a recommendation that they make, and it's also a good way to get a lot of micronutrients to the root zone right then. So next I'm going to show you what I'm going to kind of do to prepare the tomato before I actually put a tomato into the bed or into the bag. Now I'm going to show you a little bit about my method, and I mean, this isn't my method, but this is, you know, what people do. It's a good way to get a good established tomato plant. If you can kind of see here on the stalk, or maybe not, but there's like little hairs, and that's because this is really, I mean, more of a it's a vining kind of plant. So anywhere these little hairs touch dirt, they're gonna make more roots, you know. And you can see that sometimes if you take a clipping off and put it in water, like if I put this branch in water right here, like little, you know, little roots would come off all the edges of it there. So to get a good root establishment, I'm going to come along here and I'm going to pinch off everything to about right here. And that way I'm going to bury all of this in the soil, and it's going to give me, like I said, a stronger root system. And it's also going to, you know, it's going to make it seem like it's slow growing here for a minute, because it's going to go into, you know, major root production, but it's going to be okay and it'll make for a stronger plant. So now that I've got all those removed off, another thing is that a lot of people will plant their plant sideways like this, and I think I'm just going to go for getting it deep down in there, and I'm not going to show all that. I mean, it's not elaborate. I'll show you when I'm done. One thing I am going to show you is that how crazy these roots are here. So this is from the nursery, you know, so it's been sitting a minute. It's a good idea to kind of just give these a little massage. In the past, and you can do this if you like, I've been known to sometimes take off the bottom part of the roots just because this is all root bound, and like I said, the tomatoes are really strong makers of roots. So I wonder what kind of egg that is. So the one thing too that I'm going to do before I get this positioned in here, and I'm just going to kind of lay it like this so you can see, is I'm going to douse the roots, like I said, with the Soil Diva to kind of get some micro activity going as we get this planted. Now I'm going to dig down and I'm going to get this situated in the dirt, and then I'm going to put a little bit of the Epsom salt in there, and then I'm going to cover it up with a little bit more of the compost like this, and then I've got some screened compost that will be the very finished topper, and in between the next bit of this compost that's already in here and the screened is when I'm actually going to put some azomite there, so that the azomite will be running down into the system there. So I'll catch up with you in a minute and show you what it looks like then. Okay, so now you can see there's just about maybe not even an inch between the stem, the first there on the stem, down to here. So there's the azomite. Now I'm going to finish it out with the screen compost and water it in a little bit more. I watered in all this already, and then this one will be good to go. Well, I hope you learned a little bit there, and maybe not, about how I set up my tomato plants. Now, I told you that a lot of people lay their plants on the side. Now, I will tell you, I didn't lay any of mine on the side, but if I had any that kind of grew on a weird angle, then I made it where that angle was down below beneath the soil. So that's another thing that you can do to really bulk up the strength of your root system in your tomato plants. Now, even though a lot of those transplants came into my backyard with blossoms on them, I unfortunately need to go through and pluck all those blossoms off. So here in a minute, I'm going to have the girls come out and do that, and then our tomatoes will focus the rest of their energy on roots, and then the next blossoms will be the blossoms that we actually get to enjoy as tomatoes. So all of my flowers are just as happy as they can be. I've got one of my strawberries that's got flowers, but next week when we get together, you'll get to see all the things that I've planted, and maybe by then I'll even have the straw bales planted. So I hope that you're finding a way to make the best of the situation that the world is in right now. And I just want you to know that my thoughts and prayers are with all of you, and I just will keep you lifted up all throughout this time. And until next time, I hope you have the best day ever.